Saint Augustine commentary on the Gospel of John chapter 14 verse 7 to 10 following. Why then, Philip, do you say, show us the Father and it suffices us? Have I been so long time with you, and yet have you not known me, Philip? He that sees me sees the Father also. If it interests you much to see this, believe at least what you see not. For how he says, do you say, show us the Father? If you have seen me, who am his perfect likeness, you have seen him to whom I am like. And if you can't directly see this, believe you not at least that I am in the Father and the Father in me? But Philip might say here, I see you indeed and believe you full likeness to the Father. And believe your full likeness to the Father. But is one to be reproved and rebuked because when he sees one who hears a likeness to another, he wishes to see that other to whom he is like? I know indeed the image, but as yet I know only the one without the other. It is not enough for me unless I know that other whose likeness he bears. Show us therefore the Father, and it suffices us. But the Master really reproved the disciple because he saw into the heart of his questioner. For it was with the idea as if the Father were somehow better than the Son that Philip had the desire to know the Father. And so he did not even know the Son, because believing that he was inferior to another. It was to correct such a notion that it was said, he that sees me sees the Father also. How do you say, show us the Father? I see the meaning of your words. It is not the original likeness you seek to see, but it is that other you think the superior. Believe you not that I am in the Father and the Father in me? Why do you desire to discover some distance between those who are thus alike? Why do you crave the separate knowledge of those who can be separated? What after this he says not only to Philip but to all of them together. But not now be thrust into a corner, in order that by his help it may be the more carefully expounded. Chapter 14, verse 10 to 14, Tractatus 71. Give close attention and try to understand, beloved, for while it is we who speak, it is he himself who never withdraws his presence from us, who is our teacher. The Lord said what you have just read, what you have just heard read. The words that I speak unto you, I speak not of myself, but the Father that dwells in me, he does the works. Even his words then are works, clearly so. For surely he that edifies a neighbor by what he says works a good work. But what mean the words, I speak not of myself, but I who speak am not of myself? Hence he attributes what he does to him of whom he that does them is. For the Father is not God as born of anyone else, while the Son is God as equal indeed to the Father, but as born of God the Father. Therefore, the former is God, but not of God, and the light, but not of light, whereas the latter is God of God, light of light. For in connection with these two clauses, the one where it is said, I speak not of myself, and the other, which runs, but the Father that dwells in me, he does the works. We are opposed by two different classes of heretics, who, by each of them holding only to one clause, run off not in one but opposite directions, and wander far from the pathway of truth. For instance, the Arians say, here the Son is not equal to the Father. He speaks not of himself. The Sabellians or Patripassians, on the other hand, say, see, he who is the Father is also the Son. For what else is this? The Father that dwells in me, he does the works, but I that do them dwell in myself. You make contrary assertions, and that not only in the sense that any one thing is false, that is contrary to truth, but in this also when two things that are both false contradict one another. In your wanderings you have taken opposite directions. Midway between the two is the path you have left. You are a far longer distance apart from each other than from the very way you have both forsaken. Come hither, you from both sides, to us, and make this the place of your mutual meeting. You, Sabellians, acknowledge the being you overlook. Arians set him whom you subordinate in his place of equality, and you will both be walking with us in the pathway of truth. For you have grounds on both sides that make mutual admonition a duty. Listen, Sabellian, so far is the Son from being the same as the Father, and so truly is he another, that the Arian maintains his inferiority to the Father. Listen, Arian, so truly is the Son equal to the Father, that the Sabellian declares him to be identical with the Father. Do you restore the personality you have abstracted, and you the full dignity you have lowered? And both of you stand together on the same ground as ourselves, because the one of you who has been an Arian for the conviction of the Sabellian never lets out of sight the personality of him who is distinct from the Father, and the other, who has been a Sabellian, takes care for the conviction of the Arian of not impairing the dignity of him who is equal with the Father. For to both of you he cries, I and my Father are one. Chapter 10, verse 30. When he says one, let the Arians listen. When he says we are, let the Sabellians give heed and no longer continue in the folly of denying the one, his equality with the Father, the other, his distinct personality. If then in saying the words that I speak unto you I speak not of myself, he is thereby accounted of a power so inferior that what he does is not what he himself will. Listen to what he also said, as the Father raises up the dead and quickens them, even so the Son quickens whom he will. And so likewise, if in saying, the Father that dwells in me, he does the works, he is on that account not to be regarded as distinct in person from the Father, let us listen to his other words, what things soever the Father does, these also does the Son likewise. Chapter 5, verse 21 and 19. And he will be understood as speaking not of one person twice over, but of two who are one. But just because their mutual equality is such as not to interfere with their distinct personality, therefore he speaks not of himself because he is not of himself. And the Father also that dwells in him himself does the works, because he, by whom and with whom he does them, is not save of the Father himself. And then he goes on to say, believe you not that I am in the Father, and the Father in me? Or else believe me for the very work's sake. Formerly it was Philip, only who was reproved, but now it is shown that he was not the only one there that needed reproof. For the very work's sake, he says, believe you that I am in the Father and the Father in me. For had we been separated, we should have been unable to do any kind of work inseparably.